students are protesting on campus tonight.
That's because conservative commentator Ben Shapiro is speaking at Bovard Auditorium in 1 hour. See It Live starts now.
Conservative commentator, political pundit, and editor-in-chief of the Daily Wire, Ben Shapiro, is going to speak to USC students tonight at 7.
Students have been lining up outside of Bovard Auditorium for hours, with some excited and some upset. And our reporter, Anwar Stenson, is outside right now. Anwar?
Thanks, JP and Charlotte. I'm here outside of Bovard Auditorium right now. As you can see on my right and your left, this is the designated free speech area on campus. You can probably hear them better than you can see them. We have student protesters outside of Tommy Trojan protesting right-wing political commentator Ben Shapiro. Shapiro has made comments that some have called vitriolic, some have called them hate speech, racism, sexism, transphobia. But to my left and your right, we see a crowd of students and others who want to see Shapiro, and the line, let me tell you, it is long. It is extending all the way down Truesdale. It is all the way up here to Bovard, where Ben Shapiro will be speaking at 7 o'clock. We couldn't get anybody to speak. Nobody wants to lose their place in line. I mean, it is massive. There is DPS and CSC security. There are metal stanchions here behind me. People do not want to see anything turn violent. There are metal detectors. The school is prepared for the worst, but hopefully it doesn't get there. Charlotte, let's toss it back to you.
There are some planned protests leading up to tonight's event. Cecil Hannibal has more.
Yes, bringing Ben Shapiro to USC has caused a lot of controversy about whether or not he should be allowed to speak at the university. Students plan protest after hearing about Ben Shapiro's visit. There is a designated safe space for students to protest outside Bovard at Alumni Park. The protest organizers expected dozens of protesters to come out. Before the protest began, I had a chance to talk with students about how they feel about Shapiro coming to USC.
Freedom of speech, I think anybody should. I'm just curious as to why, like if in the sensitive situation that USC is already in with what happened with this sexual abuse scandal and the social work program, and then what we found out about the with the gynecologist in the medical program, I'm curious as to why they'd want anybody that's conservative or alt-right or anybody that would align with values that are limiting and oppressive to women.
We're keeping a close watch on the protests. If we have any new information, we'll bring it to you.
DPS says it's ready for tonight's event. Assistant Chief David Carlisle says they are preparing for the worst, but hoping for the best.
We're going to designate areas on campus, Alumni Park, Founders Park, and hope to direct people who wish to protest to those two areas, keeping opposing views separated. Of course, students are entitled to express themselves. It's their right. We as a university, though, reserve the right to a reasonable time and space on campus.
Carlisle said LAPD is also on standby in case things get out of hand. Our reporter Sylvie Sparks talked to the host of tonight's event.
Young Americans for Freedom is the group hosting tonight's event. Its chairman told me that by bringing speakers to campus, students are exposed to diverse points of view.
During the election, after the election, there was nowhere for me to go where I felt comfortable expressing my views. Obviously, everywhere on campus, people were very upset by the outcome of the election, and I really was afraid to say anything, even if most people knew where I stood, but in the classroom or out in public, I wasn't going to openly talk about what my political beliefs were. When we started the chapter last year, it was really to make sure that there was a conservative presence on campus. Having been here during the 2016 election, I really felt like things were lacking as far as any sort, not even like conservative, but even moderate right conversation was almost in existence. So we really just want to be not only a safe haven where people can feel comfortable expressing their conservative viewpoints, but also just knowing that there is another side to the argument, and that side of the argument should be heard. But we felt like we should kind of bring in someone high profile to really jumpstart the conversation on campus. So not only conservatives can hear a voice that they want to hear, but people that disagree have a chance to come in and be challenged and even challenge us. I hope it gets people thinking, just primarily. I would love for someone to come in and have their mind change. But on the other hand, I'd also like to have someone come in who just has an opinion to have an opinion. And if this solidifies their opinion to agree or disagree, I just think it's really important that people believe in something, but also know why they believe in it.
Several groups on campus have organized protests of tonight's event. We spoke to student leaders from the Latinx Student Assembly and the Students for Justice in Palestine.
I think it's a collective of students protesting the hate speech that he spews. It's very against a lot of minority communities on campus, and so we are there to take a stance since the university and the undergraduate student government are not.
We need to acknowledge that these people are not here to talk to us. They have no desire to talk to us. They have everything they want. And the fact that they are coming here to appeal to marginalized voices is simply a gesture. It is simply them showing that they can. And if they decide that this charade is no longer worth it, they're just not going to do it. And they're just going to run us over.
There are a total of 16 student groups participating in the Say No to Shapiro protest tonight. Reporter Miriam Fuentes has more on the speaker's controversial views.
Shapiro has come under fire from many organizations about his stance on issues related to race, same-sex marriage, and the LGBT community. Some of Shapiro's most controversial views include his opposition to same-sex marriage and his belief that abortion should be illegal. At the same time, he has denounced the alt-right movement as racist and has been critical of Donald Trump. Shapiro has also criticized the Black Lives Matter movement for what it stands for.
The Black Lives Matter movement doesn't believe Black Lives Matter. In fact, they are the single greatest threat facing young black men who want to survive to become old black men. So why have Democrats embraced the Black Lives Matter movement?
Last spring, USC professor Sean Harper was one of many experts asked to speak to Congress on issues of free speech on college campuses. He said he believes students have the right to protest controversial speakers.
Students have the right to protest people who bring hateful and poisonous messages to their communities. College students who pay tuition and fees are entitled to oppose spending thousands of their dollars on inflammatory, divisive guest speakers. College students have the constitutional right to protest.
We spoke to the executive director of the First Amendment Coalition about controversial speakers. He says although it may be uncomfortable, controversial speech is often protected under the First Amendment.
Saying hateful things about people based on their gender or their race or their sexual orientation, that kind of speech, although offensive to many, is not subject to punishment or censorship by the government because of the First Amendment, unless that speech rises to the level of being, a direct threat of violence against an individual that has the capability of being carried out.
When it comes to USC's policy on free speech, the university recognizes the crucial importance of preserving First Amendment rights and maintaining open communication and dialogue in the process of identifying and resolving problems, which arise in the dynamics of life in a university community. The legitimate expression of different opinions and concerns, including unpopular, controversial, or dissident viewpoints, is an essential element of the academic process. JP, back to you.
Thanks, Miriam. Ben Shapiro, born and raised in LA, became interested in politics at a very young age.
At age 17, he became the youngest nationally syndicated columnist in the country. Shapiro is 35 years old and identifies as an Orthodox Jew. He graduated from UCLA with a degree in political science and from Harvard Law School. He is the author of 7 books, 2 of which were published by the time he was 21 years old.
Throughout his career, Shapiro has been a conservative voice in various media platforms.
He's currently hosting a new Fox News special focusing on the midterm election.
Ben Shapiro was Breitbart News' editor-at-large from 2012 to 2016 and co-founded an activism website called Truth Revolt. He founded the Daily Wire in 2015 and is now editor-in-chief and the host of The Ben Shapiro Show. Shapiro is one of the hosts for KRLA's conservative radio show, The Morning Answer. In September, he began hosting the Ben Shapiro election special on Fox News about issues relating to the 2018 midterms.
Shapiro has a major social media following on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. On Twitter, he has 1.6 million followers. According to one audience analytics service, 79% of his Twitter followers are male, 84% are white, and 59% are millennials. His show, The Daily Wire's following is nearly identical. Twitter is blowing up as people share their opinions on Ben Shapiro's visit to USC. There are strong opinions on both sides. USC's Black Student Assembly released a statement on Twitter saying an increased police presence on campus has the potential to put Black and brown communities at serious risk for racial profiling. One person responded, saying that Ben Shapiro is a good man. Go to the event and listen instead of spreading fear, hate, and lies. Another person responded, saying, go, ask questions, confront him with your fake outrage, and learn something. This morning, Annenberg Media also released a poll asking how students feel about Shapiro's visit. As of right now, 15,300 people have voted, and there's an overwhelming number of voters who supported his visit. We've gotten a lot of responses too. One person said, issues must be openly discussed in order to find a solution. Another person said, a university is supposed to be a place where contradicting thoughts are presented and debated, not suppressed. We'll continue monitoring the social media after the event. Back to you, JP.
Back in 2015, the USC College Republicans invited Shapiro to come on campus and speak about anti-Semitism. Shapiro called the left's mindset on Islam completely wrong. He also said liberals accuse those speaking the truth of being bigots, racists, and homophobic tonight. Tonight, Shapiro will elaborate on those positions in his opposition to the left. This is not the first time Shapiro caused a stir at a California university. Hundreds of students protested against him when he visited UCLA and UC Berkeley. UCLA students and community members clashed before Shapiro spoke on campus last November. Recent Berkeley graduate Victoria Burden participated in a peaceful sit-in last September when Shapiro spoke at her campus at Berkeley.
And if it's going to be way too disruptive, it should probably be not happening at a school where students are supposed to be learning, and it should probably be happening at a different event venue, because that's what schools are for. That's what universities are for. They're there to serve the students, not to serve as publicity stunts for speakers wanting to come to these schools.
Let's go back to Anwar Stenton at the Bovard Auditorium, where people are starting to gather for the event. Anwar?
Thanks, Charlotte and JP. As you can see, the scene has not changed terribly since I was last with you guys. However, the protesters are still protesting. There's still chants, there's still music. There are more students coming to and fro from class, and the difference in the line here is that people have actually started to walking into the auditorium. You see the metal detectors back there. People are going through. This line is still long. It might be even longer than it was when we started. I mean, it's an interesting juxtaposition here on Truesdale with pride flags in the distance, with people coming to see Ben Shapiro. He's still set to schedule to perform at 7 p.m. and hopefully nothing goes wrong. Thanks, Charlotte JP for Annenberg Media. I'm Anwar Stetson. Guys?
Thanks, Anwar. Thanks for watching See It Live from everyone here at Annenberg Media. I'm JP DeBoo.
And I'm Charlotte Scott. You can watch us on the web at uscannenbergmedia.com.